Evan Engram coming over from the Giants. He finished tight end 23 last year, 46 receptions, 73 yards. 46 receptions on 73 targets, 408 yards, 3 touchdowns, 13% of the target share. Guys, what do we think of Evan Engram?
I feel like the Giants grossly mismanaged Evan Engram the last 2 years he was there. I think the ability for him to be a good receiving tight end is still prevalent. I think that Dan Arnold, who we'll talk to in a minute, while he did show flashes before his injury in Jacksonville, he is going to go back to being the inline blocker. Ingram's going to see more patterns. And again, talking about blankets, right? Lawrence is still developing a guy that, a big bodied guy in the middle. Evan Engram still has top end speed. Like he's able to go up that seam and make some plays here. So I have him as a back end tight end one. So kind of a big step up this season, but I could see him finish, and maybe it's top end tight end two, but somewhere, 11, 12, 13, 14 in that range. Because again, I think Lawrence does improve, but to improve, he's got to be able to connect on some more of these passes. And Evan Engram gives him that ability.
This is where I think a lot of Trevor Lawrence's production comes from this year, is the fact that he's got 2 pretty decent pass catching tight ends. As much as I'm not intrigued by, the rest of the receivers in this offense, I am kind of intrigued by the tight ends here. Now, because it's usually just a one roster spot, right, on your team, you're able to kind of pick and choose. But I do think that these tight ends add value in depth. Say if your first tight end goes down, I think Evan Engram is a very solid option to actually maybe even be your first tight end that you take if you're going for a later in the draft tight end board and not going after one of the top tier ones, which we'll get into tiers and everything again, I'm sure, as we get closer to draft season. But this is where I think that Trevor Lawrence gets, shows his improvement is by utilizing the tight ends. And a tight end, a pass catching tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. So the fact that they've got a couple of these guys, I think is where, they make most of their hay on offense, is by utilizing these two properly. So I'm pretty darn intrigued by Evan Engram.
Definitely a guy that I'm keeping an eye on in the draft because of where I think that he's going to go. I think he's going to fall deep into those drafts, and you can pick him up as potentially that late round tight end type of play this year. He's definitely a guy that I'm putting on that list and we'll be keeping an eye on. So a guy that I will probably have on more than one of my rosters because I'll be able to get him at, I think, tremendous value here.